As promised, Tinto is back with another dev diary, this time focusing on Spain and the incredible changes that are coming to it in the 1.35 update. We're going to talk about it today. If you want to keep up to date with future dev diaries, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Opening up, they say that the DLC is going to change Spain, but maybe not as much in the missions department as you would expect. And that's because Golden Century is not that long ago. It came out, I think, 1.29, so right before Emperor, and it gave a ton of really interesting flavor and a really good mission tree for Spain. So the main goal is going to be adding a few missions to increase the amount of flavor while leaning more into mechanical content, like the new government stuff that they've instituted in the previous dev diaries, and other things like the Holy Orders that were added a long time ago. As far as Castile goes, you can see we decided that nothing could be more iconic than adding another civil war disaster. So you have the Infantes of Aragon. Essentially, there's a fractionalist nobility, a little bit of a tug of war of power, and they are going to lead to a civil war, of course. And this event, with all of its beautiful flavor text, will allow you to either stay with the king or go with the Infantes. And depending on what you choose, you will get different results in the outcome whenever you resolve the civil war. During the civil war, you're going to have a couple of malices, but importantly, you cannot declare war, which is an interesting thing. I don't know if I've actually seen that before. Regardless, it causes unrest, legitimacy issues, as well as nobility issues, which all make sense. And much like Origins, you resolve this disaster with a mission. And depending on the path that you chose for the disaster, you will get different results. If you go with crushing the Infantes, you will get this. And if you side with them, you will get this. Very cool. And keep in mind that the actual Castilian Civil War disaster from before can still fire. So needless to say, Castile is going to have a bit of a tougher start. But anybody who knows Castile and Spain knows that it's probably the most overpowered nation in the entire game. And we're going to get more into the details of that moving forward. You'll love to see it. Enrique is no longer a 000. Instead, he is a still very terrible 201, and he is still infertile. So what do you guys say? Do we still disinherit day one? Because I think I definitely still will. Nice look at the new mission tree, and as you can see, some of them are the same, but then some of them have been replaced and some of them have been moved around, and we're going to talk about more of that in detail. So as you can see here, as per Tinto, the upper half of the tree is conquesting government and the lower half is going to be trade and colonization. The right portions of the tree is going to be basically recovering from the Civil War and kind of setting up the modern state moving forward. Some decent modifiers to dev cost, autonomy change, and reform progress, so a little bit of early expansion would be good. A little bit of flavor for the Reales, whatever this word is. Giving a flat monthly reform progress, which is pretty useful, and then state governing costs, which is also useful. So permanent province modifiers, you don't see that very often in base game. I like that. A bit of flavor surrounding the Spanish dollar. As always, feel free to pause and read the flavor text if you'd like to. Giving some yearly inflation reduction, which early on is very useful because anybody who has ever played Castile knows that La Mancha is overpowered and gold can really float a country's economy in the early game. A new unique government reform that is going to be given to you via the System of Councils mission that enables the System of Councils mechanic ability and allows estate privileges to be revoked regardless of loyalty and influence, which would be extremely useful to have. Like, for example, if you have those clergy ones to get all your relations up so you can get some alliances early, those are hard to pull away because they give them a lot of influence without a whole lot of loyalty, so that could be very situationally useful. More flavor text for the System of Councils. Another 0 to 100 progress bar for the Council Consensus, which scales up based on your ruler's abilities, and in the end gives you monthly splendor and admin efficiency that I assume will scale based on how full it is. So halfway would be like 2.5% and 2. So that is really good. That would be incredibly powerful. Imagine admin efficiency 5 plus Alhambra, and I'm imagining we're going to get some in the mission tree. It's Tinto, after all. Everything is broken, but none of it's broken if everything's broken. So that's a good motto to live by, in my opinion. A little bit of placeholder art here. Very nice. So the Royal Council allows you to pick one of these 3 for 10 years. All 3 quite useful situationally. Council of the State allows you to pick from these 3, which are all 3 are also very incredibly useful, especially that +2 Diplo rep. And the Council of War giving you this. And so it costs 50 council consensus, so you lose a little bit of the modifiers from the bar, but you also get some other modifiers which are pretty solid, especially like manpower recovery speed and yearly armor tradition. Very, very strong. And I imagine that you can get all 3 of them as long as you can keep your council consensus up high enough. So if you have a good leader, it's going to help you scale that much better. And you select one of the 3 via this event here. So this is pretty good. And the artwork is very good. Shout out Tinto for the beautiful artwork. These are the 3 icons that are going to be used for this, I believe. So very, very nice looking. I love that a lot. Of course, we have to have our warfare path. So the military branch of the mission tree, opening up, giving you Army and Navy tradition decay, as well as morale damage. So very nice. And of course, we have the Tercios, which is a special regiment that will be added in 1.35. and the availability will be increased based on army tradition that you have. So that is pretty good. And they receive 30% less shock damage. So the tercios are going to be incredibly useful. Pair that with the bonuses of high army tradition plus the generals that you get when you have high army tradition, and you're looking at a pretty solid army comp. And of course, the 30% shock damage received is their age objective, and that's going to be changed, and they haven't decided on what yet, though. But wait, there's more. You can reform the tercios, giving reinforcement speed, army drill gain modifier, and morale damage received for the rest of the game. So yeah, that's going to be pretty useful. Numbers may be changed though. If you can reign in France, you will get a permanent 25 PP, which is incredibly powerful. If you can subjugate the Low Countries, you will get goods produced for the rest of the game and culture conversion cost, which is very, very powerful. And the Spanish Road mission, which will connect Italy with the rich and maybe cursed Netherlands, which is pretty sweet. Universal Monarchy giving 25% annex cost and government capacity modifier. That's really powerful. And 100 prestige, as far as I know, the only thing you get 100 prestige for is dismantling the HRE and circumnavigating the globe. So that is really good. But if you can finish all of these and you can get to the Austrian branch, so to speak, you can get some incredibly powerful permanent modifiers, including all power costs and imperial authority growth. So if you decide to go Spain as the empire, you will be able to get some very crazy bonuses. But this one right here, years of personal union integration, is very interesting. I don't think I've seen that one before. I'm pretty sure that's a new modifier. And now that we're done with the hegemonic ambitions of Spain, let's go ahead and take a look at trade and colonization. And this mission here will get you a special type of force limit for galleons and caravels. So we are going to be getting special naval units as well on top of special army units in this patch. Caravels receive less naval attrition and give more trade power as well as move faster, while galleons have extra combat ability and do extra fire damage as well as have a higher hull size. Both seem pretty interesting, so I'm pretty curious to see how that kind of shifts the naval meta. And of course, we must buff the Spanish gold deposits, getting extra goods produced in all of our gold provinces for the rest of the game, as well as 2 base production in every province, which is 0.4 goods produced. Here, Tinto explains that America and colonial nations fell out of the scope of the upcoming DLC, but it is in the backlog. But they are going to be tweaking holy orders, like I had mentioned before, and we're going to take a look at that. So instead of just 1, there's 4 of each order, I believe. And you get to choose which monastic order you want, which mendicant order you want, and which military order you want. And each of them are going to be situational and useful for their specific areas. Like being able to block slave raids without having to build forts and all that stuff would be really, really useful for southern Spain, and I like that. And then a couple of icons for them, which again, beautiful artwork. But of course, there are 2 nations that make up Spain, and we have to talk about Aragon. Again, some things are the same and some things are different. Intervening in Castile is a new mission that will give you dynamic rewards based on how you complete it. And intervening in Castile will give you the Iberian struggle, giving you some bonuses here. And if they are your subject, they will become a historical friend, and you will also gain a restoration of union on Portugal. So Aragon game might be pretty useful. And if you do the old meta of Nosy being Byzantium, you're not going to have much competition in the Mediterranean Sea. But of course, as Aragon, you're going to have to handle a couple of internal problems like these Remensa peasants and the good old Catalans. So depending on how you go with this one, there's a couple of interesting outcomes. One, you can basically overthrow the nobility and you will get some regiments that you can put down, but you will get Eric here, who is going to be a pretty strong leader, and you will become the Aragonese Peasant Republic. And once you've finished that, you'll be able to start working through your mission tree, and that will allow you to focus on conquest and expansion branches. Quick look of what you can look at down in the southern parts of the mission tree for Aragon. Crowns of Iberia giving you the good old yearly prestige, but the big one, max number of flagships. Again, as a seafaring nation like Aragon, that is going to be incredibly powerful. Consulate of the Sea, of course, allows you to push more into the Mediterranean. Consulate of the Sea is now a government reform, giving you trade posts, which is really interesting, but more importantly, it gives you trade efficiency, global trade power, and burgher loyalty. All 3 are going to meld well with playing as Aragon. This Mediterranean Ambitions is going to give you another 10% trade efficiency, AE impact, ship cannons, and a ton of permanent claims. So yeah, I think they're leaning into that a little bit. Mare Nostrum gives you the Wooden Wool naval combat bonus off owned coast, which is really nice. You don't see that very often in vanilla. And then Caravel force limit, allowing you to lean even more into that very, very strong and powerful naval dominance as Aragon. You can reform the Barbary pirates, allowing you to get extra conversion strengths, but then you can raid coasts and get coastal raiding range. So you're going to raid the pirates back in retaliation for them raiding you. Only you're going to be doing it even better than they did it. Pushing over into Egypt, you will get some extra bonuses to culture conversion and culture acceptance, an overextension impact modifier, which is really nice for late gameplay. Some nice bonuses for this Industria Sedera, but you can also get your leader now, the Industrious trait, which adding traits via missions is something that Big Boss used to do in Flavor Universalis, so that might be something we're going to be seeing more in the coming patches, which would be really nice. And of course, we finished with the Golden Century giving us all power costs for 100 years, and then 1 guaranteed admin and diplo pip for each leader for the next 100 years. So that is really good. If you stack that with your golden area at 15% all power costs and you max out innovativeness, you're at 25% all power costs, and all power costs is how much mana costs. So for example, if you're developing, that considers all power costs. Very, very, very useful stat to have. And if you manage to form Spain as Aragon, you will keep the Aragonese mission tree, and you will then get the trading colonization branches from the Spain Castilian portion of the tree, which is really cool. So Aragon may actually even be the more flavorful and interesting way to go about forming Spain, which I always appreciate a little bit of alternate history. A little bit of a change to the Spanish ideas make it work a little bit better with the other content, but a quick look at the new Spanish ideas. Starting off, they get morale and artillery fire, and the finisher is discipline, which by the time you form Spain, you're almost guaranteed to have at least most of your ideas done, so you're basically going to get this very early on. Still get the free colonist, a little bit of extra reform progress growth, which is always useful, tons of marines and naval force limit, envoy travel time, more prestige, possible diplo policy, and you don't lose as much loyalty on revoking of estate privileges, which is pretty nice. They're considering getting rid of the artillery fire modifier, and I demand we do not keep the artillery fire. It is like the only one in the game. I think maybe Russia gets it as well, or they used to at least. The boom boom stick of Spain must remain beefy. I demand that we keep the artillery fire modifier. And other Iberian countries, they say that they're going to be showing Portugal at a later date, as well as Navarra. But one thing you can look forward to is a not so green Portugal anymore. They've changed the color to be a more historical color. I know I personally have heard a lot of complaints about Portugal being green, and they should be blue. So there you go. You get blue Portugal, which I guess they also showed blue Prussia in a previous Dev Diary as well. So we're going to get 2 blue nations. And of course, next week, we're going to be talking about good old-fashioned GB. I am excited to see this one because I actually really, really enjoy Rule Britannia's mission tree for Great Britain. I hope they don't change it too much because I thought that was a really good mission tree, one of the best. But either way, guys, if you enjoyed the Dev Diary read and you appreciate it, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe for more to come. And a huge shout out to the patrons who keep the channel going, get early access to videos and exclusive Discord benefits using the link in the description. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, stay chill.